I felt ridiculous for even being here because I am the billionaire who didn't believe in destiny until Atlas 3 I arrived. Tonight I stood alone on the glass bridge observatory that links my two tallest towers in Singapore, 400 meters above the city. Wind screaming through the open sides like it wanted to remind me how fragile control really is. Below, Marina Bay glittered in perfect grids I had designed myself. Proof that nothing was written, everything was earned. Then the comet appeared. It drifted just above the horizon, an elongated ancient rock veined with slow-pulsing cyan fractures that breathed in perfect 4-second cycles. Deliberate, alive, impossible to ignore. My hand started shaking the moment I saw it. I walked the transparent floor until I reached the private console room suspended in the middle of the bridge. The city vanished behind tinted glass, only Atlas 3 I remained, watching me. I woke the screens out of habit, anything to feel in control again. Orbital data, market projections, private feeds. For one heartbeat, everything looked normal. Then every line flatlined at once. The displays went black except for a single white circle, cut cleanly in half by one vertical line. The exact symbol my brother used to scratch into concrete before every surrender, half light, half shadow. The symbol spread across every screen, then onto my smartwatch, then reflected in the glass, then in my own eyes. Coordinates appeared beneath it. They pointed to one place I had deleted from my life, 15 years ago. The abandoned skate park on the western edge of the city, where Ethan finally stopped trying. 15 years ago, on that cracked half-pipe, my older brother Ethan sat bleeding and said the sentence that split my life in two. It just wasn't meant to be. He said it about skateboarding. Then about college. Then about the treatment that could have saved our mother. Every time he gave up, he called it destiny. I was 17 and I hated him for it. I swore that night I would never let destiny write a single line of my story. Every billion I made was another proof that he was wrong, and that surrender was only for the weak. Until tonight, when the same symbol he used to draw in the dust appeared on every screen I own. I laughed once, short and bitter. Destiny? A glitch. A joke. Nothing more. But the symbol kept pulsing in perfect rhythm with the cyan fractures outside the glass. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, as if the comet and my heart had agreed on the same I tried to shut everything down. Nothing responded. The air in the room grew suddenly warm, almost gentle, and a faint golden haze rose from the floor, softening every sharp edge of the world I had built. My vision trembled, then blurred, then opened. For one impossible moment, I saw a different city. People walking slowly under trees, talking face to face with calm eyes, children laughing freely, strangers touching shoulders without calculation, and I saw myself among them, not winning, not controlling, simply present and strangely light. The haze dissolved as quickly as it came. The bridge snapped back into focus. The coordinates glowed brighter on my wrist. For one heartbeat, I thought I could still delete the coordinates, shut it all down, pretend none of this had happened. Then the truth hit harder than any vision. Every empire I had built, every sleepless night, every relationship I never allowed to get close, every zero in my bank account had only one purpose: to prove that Ethan had been wrong. And that destiny was just the word losers used when they stopped fighting. I had spent 15 years running from the possibility that one day I might have to say the same sentence. And tonight the universe had just handed me the exact address where that sentence was born. I looked at the glowing symbol on my wrist, half light, half shadow, and for the first time the laughter never came. Only silence. And in that silence, the decision was already made. I stood motionless, 33 years old, master of every variable I had ever allowed into my life. And for the first time something was asking me to follow. The symbol pulsed once more, patient, ancient, certain. I already knew I would go. I was already moving before I admitted I had decided. The private elevator dropped me to the underground garage in silence. A matte black electric hyperbike waited, its fairings sculpted like a blade. I swung my leg over the seat, the navy suit still perfect, every inch of me screaming that this was insane. The coordinates locked into the bike's navigation without my input. Destination, 29 minutes west. The city blurred into streaks of neon and rain. I kept the throttle pinned, as if speed could still outrun what was happening inside my chest. 29 minutes later, the bike slowed on its own and stopped at a chain-link fence crowned with rusted barbed wire. Beyond it lay the abandoned skate park I had paid good money to forget. I killed the engine. The silence hit harder than the wind ever had. I pushed through a gap in the fence. Weeds had cracked the concrete bowls. Graffiti had faded to ghosts. The air smelled of wet earth and old dreams. My shoes crunched over broken glass as I walked to the half-pipe where everything ended. The night sky was wide open above the broken ramps, and there it was again. Atlas III, eye hanging low. Its cyan fractures pulsing slow and steady, like it had followed me all the way here just to watch me face what I'd spent 15 years running from. There, scratched deep into the coping, was the same symbol, a circle cut perfectly in half by one vertical line, Ethan's last drawing before he quit forever. I knelt and touched it without thinking. The concrete was cold. Memory flooded in without permission. I was 17 again, watching my older brother wipe out for the 100th time. Blood on his cheek, board snapped in two. He sat on the ramp, looked up at the sky, and said the words I would spend my life trying to kill. Guess it just wasn't meant to be. I had screamed at him that night. Told him destiny was cowardice dressed in poetry. That only weak people surrendered. I swore I would never say it wasn't meant to be, that destiny was just another word for giving up. I would force the world to bend. I built an empire on that promise. Now, 15 years later, my fingers were tracing the same stupid circle he drew the day he gave up. Something cracked open behind my ribs. I hated him for quitting. I hated myself more for becoming the opposite extreme, someone who could never rest, never trust, never breathe. The night air turned suddenly heavy, almost liquid. The symbol beneath my fingertips seemed to warm, or maybe that was the blood finally reaching my hands. I stayed there on my knees longer than I meant to. When I finally stood, the anger was still there. But it felt thinner, like a coat I had outgrown. Then it came, a cold that had nothing to do with temperature, a pull behind my sternum, quiet and undeniable. I need to go somewhere frozen. No coordinates, no glowing watch. Just certainty, soft as snowfall and twice as heavy. I looked once more at the half-circle carved in concrete, at the scar it had left on both of us. And for the first time I didn't feel contempt. I felt tired. The bike started itself behind me, patient. I walked back through the fence knowing I would follow the cold. Not because the comet told me to, but because something inside me had finally stopped running. I followed the cold. A private Gulf Stream took off from a dark airstrip outside the city while the rest of the world slept. 1 hour and 40 minutes north, over black water and sleeping islands, until the windows filled with snow-covered mountains. I sat alone in the cabin, jacket still on, staring at the half-circle symbol glowing faintly on my watch. Part of me still wanted to turn the plane around. We landed on a private ice runway lit only by landing lights. A silent electric snowcat waited, matte black. Tracks instead of wheels, cabin heated, autonomous but with a pilot ready if needed. The man nodded once and said nothing. I left the navy jacket on the seat the moment the cat started climbing. The cold outside was immediate, clean, merciless. The ride lasted almost an hour, up switchbacks no road dared to follow, until the trees disappeared and there was only white silence and stars. When the snowcat stopped, the pilot killed the engine without a word. I stepped out. The frozen lake stretched endless under the open sky, smooth as glass, reflecting the faint cyan pulse of Atlas III eye low on the horizon. I walked to the center barefoot. The ice burned at first, then it didn't. It felt like truth. I stopped and waited for the anger to come. The same anger that had built empires and kept everyone at distance. It didn't come. Instead, the air turned warm, almost tender. A soft golden mist rose from the ice, curling around my legs, climbing until the stars blurred and the cold vanished completely. The vision arrived stronger than ever. 2 people standing on this exact lake years from now, no words, no armor. Eyes locked, breathing in perfect unison, hearts beating at the same slow rhythm. No need to win, no need to control. Just presence, absolute, unafraid, whole. One of them was me, older, lighter, sleeves rolled high, smiling without calculation. And for the first time I understood what Ethan had never understood either. Destiny wasn't weakness. Destiny wasn't control. Destiny was the space that opens when the war inside finally ends. The mist pressed against my chest like a hand I had waited 33 years to feel. The last wall didn't crack. It dissolved. Tears came hot and immediate. I let them fall and freeze on my cheeks without wiping them away. I was no longer the boy who hated his brother for giving up. I was no longer the man who had to win to prove he was right. I was simply here. And for the first time that was enough. Atlas 3, I pulsed once more, slow, final, like a heartbeat saying, "Welcome home." The mist vanished. The stars returned, sharper than ever. I stayed on the ice long after the tears turned to crystals. Then I turned and walked back across the ice, barefoot, tears frozen on my cheeks like small diamonds. The wind didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like the universe breathing with me. I didn't pick up the jacket I had left behind. I didn't need armor anymore. Somewhere in the distance, the snowcat engine hummed, patient. But I wasn't in a hurry. For the first time in 33 years, I had all the time in the world, because destiny hadn't taken anything from me. It had simply waited until I was ready to receive what was already mine. And I was. I was ready. I was ready to live. If Atlas 3 I turned its light on you tonight, what part of yourself would it finally ask you to stop fighting? Leave it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story touched something deep inside you, subscribe and turn on notifications. See you at the next revelation.